Right. Rest. Woo! Major. On. Front. At. Eat. Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. What you see before you is the Fort York Fife and Drum Corps. We're from downtown Toronto. We're at historic Fort York, and we're very honored to be here as part of the annual Fife and Drum Muster. This is a very special year for us in particular, because it's the 200th anniversary of the Fencibles' time here at Fort George, between June 1815 and June 1816. I believe there's an announcement.
Bonjour mesdames et messieurs, avez-vous la démonstration de près d'abord? S'il y a des personnes qui veulent passer cette démonstration en français, simplement lever les mains.
Oui. Oui? No? No? I need you actually to do the French offer for the
well,
uniforms.
Perfect. So I'm the drum major. In the next few moments, I'll tell you a bit about the instruments and the roles of these musical warriors. Now, the instruments we carry, by virtue of their volume, were important tools of communication during the War of 1812. On a loud or smoky battlefield, drummers could signal basic calls like advance or retreat, either on the drum or the bugle. But most of a soldier's time was not actually spent on the battlefield. Rather, in forts much like this one, engaged in a dull routine of drills, parades, and tedious manual labor. And the fifes and drums would play the important job of playing tunes throughout the day to help keep everyone on schedule. So they wake soldiers up in the morning with a tune called the Reveille. They'd send out work parties with the Pioneers' March, and they'd form up soldiers in the morning with the troop. And the first song we're going to play is actually a version of the troop, which is what everyone would play in the morning to assemble soldiers for morning parade, and then later in the day for evening parade. This was quite a long process, as you can imagine, if you have a regiment of 500 or more men. So songs like this could be quite long and become a little concert almost. But fortunately, we're only going to play one version. This one's called Short Troop. Short Troop. Drum. Yep. Attention. Drum. Ready. Drum. Beat. Some grew tired of the drudgery of soldiering and decided not to play by the rules. Drunkenness and desertion were big problems, especially in this regiment. In fact, between June of 1815 and November of 1815, in just a 6-month period, 20% of our soldiers actually just ran away. And that's because they were here at Fort George. The last place they were was at Fort York, which is a much longer swim from the U.S. border. But here it's a quick swim or boat ride, and many soldiers decided that the better pay on the American side of the border was actually worth becoming a farm laborer over there. The demographics of this regiment actually had an interesting twist, because over half of them were French Canadian. And you'd expect those soldiers to maybe be less loyal to their king and country than the soldiers born in the British Isles or the English-speaking Canadians. But in fact, it was the opposite. The English-speaking Canadians, the ones born in Britain, were actually more likely to desert for a quite simple reason, because the French Canadians could speak very little English. And they realized they couldn't get a good job over there, they might be exploited, because they don't have English-speaking skills. Whereas somebody born in, say, Scotland said, that's great, I can make twice as much and not get whipped, so I might as well go across the border. One particularly infamous case actually concerns the drum major, Augustus Welling, who, after 1 month of being drum major, decided on the morning of September 28, 1815, just to leave. So it would be interesting to see what the drummer's reaction was. It would be, where's the drum major? Or perhaps because they were French, où est le tambour major? And they were probably pretty befuddled, because they didn't know, actually, on the other side of the river, at the American Fort Niagara, Augustus Welling was enlisting in the U.S. artillery. And he would stay there for a few months until he evidently got bored of the land of the free, and then decided to desert back to the British. So he came right back here, didn't get his job back as drum major, but the story doesn't end there, because a few months later, he deserted again. So this guy was a bit of a black sheep. I don't know if he was punished because the records for 1815 don't survive, but we do know he tried his antics in 1811 and got 700 lashes for attempted desertion. Now, the drummers were actually the ones irresponsible for administering these punishments, which makes it so ironic that this drum major was a bit of a character. The drummers would be the ones flogging the backs of drunks, thieves, and deserters with a whip known as the cat-o'-nine-tails. So this song we're going to play is actually the Rogues' March, and it was often played to serenade offenders, to shame them in front of the entire regiment, as they would be forced to watch the punishment. And in honor of Augustus Welling, 200 years on, let's hear it. Rogues' March. Drum, steady up, attention, drum, ready, drum, beat. But the fifes and drums could also help soldiers stay out of trouble by helping them relax and unwind in barracks after a long day, or maybe by buoying spirits during a long march or a harsh Canadian winter. Dancing was very popular, and all sorts of popular folk music would have been played to remind soldiers of home, be it Montreal or Aberdeen. But the fifes and drums certainly did not have a monopoly on military music, and many individual soldiers in their spare time might have picked up an instrument like the tin whistle, the flute, or the fiddle. There was one Scottish Highlander in the Canadian Fencibles who was paid to spend the entire war in Quebec playing the bagpipes as part of a recruiting party, to let everyone know, I suppose in the loudest possible terms, that the army was looking for new volunteers. The regiment's officers also privately financed a band of music, paying individual soldiers to learn orchestral-style instruments. So instead of fifes and drums, more like clarinets, horns, and bassoons. Now the 41st actually is going to show us what that band of music might have sounded like, I believe, at 12 o'clock here in the officers' quarters. But we know the Canadian regiment also had a band, including several black musicians, which was very much in vogue because these bands tried to get this sort of Turkish Oriental style. They liked all the percussion, like cymbals. We have a bass drum with us, which was normally part of band, and little triangles. We would get this Oriental feel that was very much in vogue in the early 19th century. So the next song we're going to play is actually one of the most popular pieces of band music in the early 19th century. It's called See the Conquering Hero Comes. It was written in the mid-18th century by George Friedrich Handel. It was so popular that on the march to Washington, D.C., at the end of the War of 1812, where the British were going to burn the White House, a regimental band is recorded as having played this song so the soldiers can sing along on the march. Drum, yep, attention, drum, ready, drum, beat. Concerns a very interesting revelation about the Canadian Fencibles Fife and Drum Corps, and that is the fact that around 1816 they had a bugle major. Now it's often thought that Fife and Drum Corps mostly just played those two instruments, and bugles were only starting to become in vogue. There would be one or two members of the drum corps that would play buglers because they were attached to the light company. These men would be skirmishers, maybe fighting in the woods. It was important to have a portable small instrument that you could play, and that was the bugle. But in fact, there was only one of those in the Canadian Fencibles in 1815 to 16, which led us to conclude that there probably wasn't that many people playing bugles. But then we, in fact, discovered a chancellor advertisement in the Kingston Gazette the day after the entire regiment was disbanded, talking about a bugle major who just lost his discharge. Now, I'm not sure what is more impressive, losing your discharge after one day. It was probably a pretty drunken American night, or the fact that we had a bugle major, which indicates that since there was only one light company musician, there's probably a lot more people playing bugle, otherwise that man would have no one to major. So in light of this new discovery, we've been playing more and more bugle songs to adjust for this fact that we actually had a very interesting fife and drum corps that seems to have also played bugle a lot more than many other units at the time. So we're going to play one bugle song for you from the book of James Gilbert, 1804. So yeah, bugle major to light. So, ready? Five, rest, drum, beat. Demonstration certainly sounds like you did. Does anybody have any questions? Yes?
That bugle thing, girls?
Oh, well, thank you very much.
That wasn't a question.
Yeah, I know.
Any questions? Well, looks like I've done my job. There'll be plenty of more fife and drum demonstrations throughout the day. There's going to be a banded music demonstration inside the officers' quarters very soon, and we hope you have a great day here at Fort George National Historic Site.
Thank you.
Well done!
Woo! That's so dreamy!